Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's Dustinkreis, and I'm going to continue this day of filming videos. I just got done filming my Star Trek in the Darkness review with a expanded thoughts on Pandora's Tower. I kind of talked about it on my hiatus video, and a lot of people watched that, but I just finished the game, and I want to give sort of one video with some concise thoughts about it. It's not going to be as long as a normal game discussion, I don't think, but I just feel like it deserves its own video because it is a great game, but I did get very frustrated with it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. And we all know the story of this. It was one of the Operation Rainfall games, and it was sort of voted the least likely to come over here. And then, of course, Nintendo of Europe did a translation of it and released it over there, and Xseed just said, hey, we could publish that over here really easy. And luckily they did, and we got it. So, yeah, as a Operation Rainfall game, which if you don't know what the Operation Rainfall games are, it's Xenoblade, Last Story, and Pandora's Tower. A bunch of Wii RPGs that people who really big enthusiasts of the Wii and Nintendo said, why the fuck aren't you bringing these games over? And it was a good question. You know, I don't know what Nintendo's malfunction was. They just thought grandmothers and, you know, casual gamers are the only people who are playing on their Wii. These are the kind of games that get people to buy your system. So hopefully with the Wii U and their sort of rededication of bringing Japanese games over here, they're going to do more in that regard. But anyway, let's get into the story and talk about it. The story is a bit obtuse in certain places. There's a lot of books that you pick up around the levels and stuff to sort of flesh out the story, but the actual story that you watch itself is very sparse, but it's still a very nice little love story, I think. And it involves two characters, well, basically three characters. There's Aaron, Elena, and Mavda. And Aaron is the hero of the piece, and he is out to find a way to lift the curse from his beloved Elena, who has been afflicted with this curse that turns her into a grotesque monster. In order to do this, the third character that travels with him, this old lady named Mavda, tells him he needs to go to Pandora's Tower, which is actually a conglomeration of 13 different towers, in order to fight these monsters called the Masters, and steal their flesh and feed them to Elena in order to cure the curse. Now, of course, in traditional JRPG sense, it gets a little bit more crazier than that, but that is the basis of the story. And while I never really got involved in sort of the backstory of the game, like how the towers came to be and all that stuff, I was really drawn into Aaron and Elena, and I really liked coming back to the tower, from the towers, and using my items and stuff that I bought to give her gifts. And because if you strengthen the bond between you and Elena, it does affect the ending. So it's not just something frivolous in the game. You really want to build that bond up and try to get the best ending you can. That being said, I got the A ending. I was a few levels down from fully maxing out our relationship and getting that S ending, but I did watch it on YouTube. And it was pretty good, yeah. I thought it was a good ending, but I think the A ending kind of, I don't know, maybe it's because the ending I got kind of struck me the best. But the storyline, it is sparse, and of course up to Xenoblade and Last Story standards, it's nowhere near that. But for the type of game it is, which isn't really, it's not really an RPG, it's more of an action-adventure game with RPG elements in it. I think it really did sort of fit the game well. Gameplay-wise, if you've ever played A Legend of Zelda, it's pretty much an unrefined Zelda. There's some control issues. Don't even use the classic controller. I don't even know why they gave you that option. It sucks. Basically, you use the nunchuck and the Wiimote. You use, of course, the left stick to move around the stage, and then you use your Wiimote as sort of it puts a cursor on your screen, not like, you know, kind of like how Navi was in like Twilight Princess, the Wii version, and of course Skyward Sword. You use that to sort of move this cursor around, and you can aim the chain that you have. Whew. We're getting into the gameplay stuff. It's starting to get like bugged. I'm starting to get bored talking about it. But you use this chain to sort of rip items from enemies, to maneuver around the stages, and things like that. And you just basically move through these 13 towers, collecting items that you can use to refine into better swords, create new items. There's really a lot of stuff in this game, a lot of item creation and things like that. The game gets a little bogged down, though, I find, because it feels like you make it through the first 5 towers, and then it unlocks 5 more, and you're like, okay, I can do this. And then it's like you get halfway through those 5, and you're like, alright, this game kind of needs an end. And it's not a long game, it's only about a 20-hour game, but at the same time, it's just like, there are a few towers in here that are really well designed, and then, like, the first 5, you're like, man, this is a great design game. And then you get to the next 5, and the next 5 are basically the same premise as the first 5, only bigger. And you're like, oh, I gotta do another fire one, and you remember, like, how you had problems with a certain one in the first 5, and you're like, oh, I gotta do that again. You know, it just kind of, like, it kind of saddens you a little bit. And then you get to, like, the last tower, which is the Dawn Dusk Tower. And that was actually really cool, how you had to maneuver between the 2 towers. But, yeah, gameplay-wise, the controls are just kind of not there. They're almost there, and I felt like if this, the company that made this, which I can't remember what they're called, Ganbarian, if they would have spent a little bit more time refining those controls, this would have been an excellent, excellent game. There's this, you have to grapple onto, like, these ledges and swing in order to jump across some of these chasms. And I feel like it's almost broken. Because the game, it kind of plays from a classic Resident Evil perspective where the camera is fixed and you have to maneuver around in these stages. And sometimes, even though your character is facing front, the camera is facing this way. So technically your up and down is at a diagonal. So in order to make the swing across, you're actually pushing like left and right to get them to swing across. And it's such a weird thing. You get used to it, but it's like you would think when you swing, at the zenith of your swing, that's when you press the B button to jump. And that's not the case, because whenever I do that, it's like he jumps back, because he's starting to come back on the backswing. You have to press the B button about right here in the swing before you get to the zenith to make that jump. And a lot of times it never really felt, the timing just never really felt right, and I would mess up quite a bit. And of course, when you miss the jump, you don't always die. Like, sometimes you just fall down a bunch of levels and have to climb back up. Which brings me to the next point. You're on a timer, because the curse is constantly affecting Elena. So you have to make it through these towers, defeat sort of more powerful monsters, and gain their flesh to take back and feed to her to reset the timer. And if you let the timer go too long, she'll start to turn back into her monstrous form. And I think that can affect the ending. How many times she transforms back can affect the ending. And if you actually run out of time, it's game over. She makes the complete transformation, and it's done. So you have to kind of find the most efficient route through these towers. And anytime you miss a jump and drop back down, it really sets you back, especially when you're getting that final push to go after the master of the tower. Because some of those battles can take a while, and there was a few times where I made it back in time, but it was really getting close, you know. So, yeah, a little bit more refinement with the controllers. Like, I was talking to some of my friends on YouTube here about it, and it felt like I was fighting the controller more than I was fighting the enemies in some places. So, there is that. But it's not enough to sort of diminish the game. Like, I got really frustrated with the game for a while, and I took a few days off. You know, during the move, I took a few days off, and then I came back to it, and I just whipped right through the rest of the game. So, if you start getting frustrated with it, my advice is to set it down and take a break. Go play something else. Go watch some movies. Go do something, and then come back to it. Graphics-wise, it's quote-unquote an ugly game. That is by comparison to most modern day, 360, PS3 games. It is a Wii game, and there's a lot of artifacting and things like that in the graphics. That being said, I think the art direction in this game is fantastic. And in a lot of ways, this game really reminded me of Nier, one of my other favorite games that kind of got, pushed to the wayside because it wasn't graphically brilliant and, all this other stuff. The controls were not as refined. But, yeah, I really loved sort of just the design of the towers and the design of the world itself. And it's one of those things you don't get in Western games, sort of the weirdness of Japanese creations. The music, I find the music is really fitting for the game, but like the Laggy Gamer said to me, I'm not going to rush out and buy the soundtrack, But while you're playing the game, you're going to find it to be very nice. It's a bit repetitive. There's only a few songs in the game itself. They kind of repeat, dungeon themes and things like that. But, yeah. Not as amazing, certainly not as amazing as Xenoblade, not as amazing as Last Story, but I'm still really glad we got Pandora's Tower over here, and hopefully it does sell quite a bit, both for Xseed, because they put it out, and I love Xseed, and I wish they would, put more stuff out, but they're a small team, and hopefully for Nintendo to realize that this is the kind of stuff we want on our systems. We don't want 14 different Mario games, or we don't want, well, maybe some people out there want 14 different Mario games. We don't want a bunch of, shovelware, which I love buying the Wii, and I love the Wii, but I was at Kmart the other day looking through sort of the bargain bins just to see if there's anything old there that I wanted on the cheap. And it's at that moment that you realize, God, there's a ton of crap on this system. And it's not like the olden days where Nintendo only let companies put out like 5 games a year, and they had to be good, otherwise you weren't going to make your money. These companies are just dumping like shit on the Wii. And but that being said, I still think the Wii's a great system for the few games that are there. There's enough there to make it worth your purchase. And one of them is Pandora's Tower, and I'm glad I got it. Glad I finished it. Glad it came over. But I won't be returning it to it anytime soon. Other things to play, and it is kind of a clunky game, but for, to make it through and have it in your collection, I would definitely advise that. And also, Xseed's really been getting into this here lately. It does have a reversible cover, but I won't be doing that because I don't want the label to be all bent up the other way. So, anyway, guys, that was just some quick thoughts, sort of a quick video for Pandora's Tower itself. Just to give it the proper respect it deserves. I would say definitely go out and get it. I think it's only 30, is it 40 or 30? It might be only 30 bucks. And of course you'll probably find some used for cheaper. But if you realize you haven't played your Wii in a while and you kind of want a weird action-adventure game, here's your ticket. So anyway, guys, that is it for Pandora's Tower. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.